I just got out of prison, spent 12 years, 15 days in prison. I actually did the math on that, and that's 113,940,260 breaths on average. And you have to distract yourself if you're not mentally equipped, because you're going through a war 24/7 that you may or may not realize. And it's anti-human. Breath spent in one location, is a form of suffocation. Black people don't get whooped, and essays can't take losses. If there's a loss,
somebody gotta die.
In confinement, he discovered freedom through words, rhythm, and truth.
From inmate to artist, from survival to purpose, this is his way of life.
I had this other quote that I said, it took coming to prison to contemplate what had me imprisoned. And that's when I began to reflect on, I was already in prison in here.
What's good, y'all? Before we get into today's episode, I got a quick favor to ask. If you could, please hit the subscribe button. The only reason that I'm asking is because by you subscribing, it helps for me to be able to continue to create this content. I don't have a big team, or I'm not getting paid by some type of external source to create this content. I do it all on my own dollar. And so instead of doing fundraisers and asking, hey, donate $1, sign up for my Patreon, and doing all of that stuff, all I ask is that you please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button too. Hit it right now, please. And just leave a comment, leave something, because what that does is it shows the algorithm that this content is worth putting out there. That's the free thing that I ask for you, to just support the show and what we're creating here on the Clean Your Room show. So please subscribe, please like, and please leave a comment. And let's get into today's episode.
My name is Way of Life, formerly known as Russell Wardlow. Now it's Way of Life Wardlow. I just got out of prison, spent 12 years, 15 days in prison. Every single day matters. I actually did the math on that, and that's 113,940,260 breaths on average. And just reflecting on how important breathing is, air is, freedom is. Breath spent in one location, is a form of suffocation. And so to kind of get out and acquire new breath, new name, new identity, a revealed purpose, has kind of been a journey I've been on. And so I'm a poet. I'll just say an artist, because I do write music, poetry, prose, spoken word. I do slam poetry. I rap, kind of croon a little bit. I really kind of like that reggae or Wyclef, kind of rusty, raspy kind of vibe, whatever, because it kind of takes after my own inflection. I also created an LLC that I'm on the merge of building up right now, which is called Prose of a Con. The name came off of a website that was putting out my poetry while I was in prison, when I was teaching myself how to write and I was purging. So it's kind of like purgatory, Edgar Allan poetry, right? And it was kind of just like a catharsis. I was purging and putting everything out in free verse, but it had a rhythm to it. But it was a wordplay, because Prose of a Con is pros and cons, but poetry prose. And so it was just my way of saying newly righting my wrongs, right? And this LLC is really my idea for when I first was in prison. Was I wanted to come out to create a platform that created platforms, right? I wanted to be that person that initiated the way for those to come out and actually shine, so we as a collective, as a society, can see all the hidden jewels that we have, right, in that mind called prison. And so it was curriculum creation, mentorship, coaching, creative performance, keynote speaking. I really desired to go around and not only share my story, but share many of the revelations that I got about how to make life more easier for me and attune to my spirituality. These things that I created while I was in prison, like acronyms and formulas, so forth. I've been creating events out here, and usually when I do events, I'm always bringing formerly incarcerated men and women to them so they can speak and everyone can see that there's more than just way of life. And so I'm a way paver. I am a trailblazer, an innovator, right? A creative. But I'm one that also walks with my ancestors, in African spirituality, and I'm still learning in that. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student, forever a student. And man, I'm a revolutionary, right? I think Joe Rogers said it best, like, I just came out here and just started fucking shit up, right? And so when I got into the poetry slam circuit or whatnot, I was the only me. And so I've been on that journey. And now that I've kind of had 10 months on that circuit, I've been studying everybody else as well as mine and just kind of trying to create new ways to bring out the message that I live behind, which is prisoners are the prophets. That is a potential, not a promise, right? And so that's something that once it's woken up in you, you have to cultivate, right? And then after you cultivate, you have to walk in that, so you know how to walk in that. And then it's that continual process, right? The continual developing process. And so, yeah, man, I've been a voice for us men specifically in prison and coming out here to do exactly the same. I kind of got that platform by the elders and the men in prison. I always said that if you can be accepted in prison, if people like what you're doing in prison, supposedly the most miserable place on earth, there's nothing out here that should ever scare you about performing, because they're going to let you know exactly what they think about it. And so, yeah, I just always stand in my truth, and my name is known and remembered and spoken good. So when I say way of life, it's a thing of pride. A lot of people ask me, well, what's your mom name you? And my mom called me way of life. But just to kind of quell all that, I ended up getting my name changed legally to way of life, which was a spiritual thing that maybe we can talk about a little bit later on into the show. But it's a thing that I'm very strong behind. My name is way of life. It's no longer Russell. If you communicate to me as if I am Russell, then you're not talking to me, and we have nothing else to talk about.
Put some respect on that man's name.
Ashe.
Man, one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm glad that you did, because this is where I really wanted to segue to. Prison has a bunch of hidden gems in there. If you look in media, or if you look in just like society, there's so much propaganda, there's so much stereotypical messages that go out, that people who go to prison, people who look like you and me, and we're not the only ones that go to prison, yes, but a lot of times we become the poster of prison, the poster of degenerate, or whatever word they want to throw on there, and they just cast us to the side like there is no potential that is able to be built in there, or that we actually have, or that we actually even produce or create.
Yes.
There's a journey that you had to take, though, in order to fully embody. And I believe that this is with anyone, whether you go down a path where you're looking at time, whether you go down a path where you're not, and you go to school or whatever it is, there's a journey for everybody to realize themselves. I want to know, where did your journey begin? Because all of these things that you're doing, one, is dope as fuck. Two, it's expressing just that creative gene that each one of us have inside of us. Man, it's crazy, because when I first started creating content, bro, this mantra that I used to say, it was, what's good on my conscious creators, curators, and cultivators. And I said it every single time I started a piece of content, every single time I ended a piece of content, because I believe it. Yes. Like, it's real. Each one of us are creators, cultivators, and like, you got to be conscious to embody it and to be able to actually move in it. So I want to know for you, when did your journey begin? Who was Way of Life way back when?
See, excuse me, a part of this podcast will be this piece of cornbread that's joining me from this Kwanzaa event I just left in. So excuse me.
It's trying to come back.
Cornbread won a front row seat too. That's if we're talking about when the Way of Life began, Way of Life became himself in prison, right? And I say prison for those so people can kind of fixate their minds on the local part, right? To me, in retrospect, prison was like a hyperbolic time chamber. It was a place where I went to heal and know myself, right? And so I had to silence out a lot of the lies that I didn't know that I adorned myself with, right? And so I think our African ancestors, right, when we're talking about life was a constant, ever unfolding story, a story of creations, not a story of creation, right? And so I would say my path began before, right, I came here, because even the circumstances of how I got here was not normal.
Talk about it.
All right, so I was actually born, since people love titles and labels, I was born a bastard, right? My mother, Amanda Marie Wardlow, she was in the military in Savannah, Georgia, with my father, Russell Howard East. And during the domestic dispute or altercation in self-defense, she stabbed him, right, one time, and it was a fatal chest wound. And that was February 21st, 1988. And what was it, like 9 months to the day, I was born October 21st, 1988. And I was told there was a lot of problems, complications, people advising my mom to get an abortion, but she was very in tune and in touch with me. And that was a lonely time for her, because just being a black woman in the military and then killing an officer, right? You're already in a country that don't see you. And at the same point in time, not only not seeing you subjugates your body, right? Subjectifies your whole being, or objectifies your whole being, really both of them. And then now you have to try to say that you are defending yourself in a patriarchal system while you're inside of a military institution, right? And the support wasn't there. And so now when you slay someone who you love, there's already that trauma. Now the baby's inside of you growing, that's a reminder of that which you took away. That's already a trauma. Now, the institution you joined yourself to, that you gave your loyalty and your fidelity, right, to, is turning this back on you. That's another trauma. And then the family that you have is way back in Nebraska and don't really know what's going on and is not really able to be there for you and support you the way that you need to. That's another trauma, because our black families have been broken and dysfunctional by design. And so as a black woman, she had to carry all that with her. But she had a special relationship with me, and she would always say, like, I thought I was born that she birthed Jesus. Now, there was no proof of how, but, but just if we're talking about, historical or mythological metaphors, right? It was like the slain father, right? And the son is the resurrected father that now avenges, right, the father, or now makes right what he made wrong, right? And so I was born to a mom who was very smart, very ambitious, very witty, very clever, very loving, but the little girl in her, right, was still kind of hurt. And then once that happened, there was nowhere that she could turn to, right? And so she was kind of black sheep, which I kind of took on that identity of being a black sheep, right? I was like, that's Amanda's son, that's Amanda's son. And so I didn't see anything special with my life or my birth, because I didn't even know the story that I just told you until I was around 16. And I didn't know the full true story of that until about 2018, 2019, when I was in prison, when I was having visitations with my mom. I was told while I was a foster child back then that my dad died in the military, right? And so that makes me think he died in war. There was no actual explanation of who, what, why, et cetera, et cetera. I was just fed this lie. Now, I've been in so many foster homes, group homes, shelters, juvenile spaces, right, that I have so many stories everywhere, right? And many of those stories I've still been holding together, right? But so I went off into foster care because my mom, from that, obviously, she was traumatized by that and ended up having addiction to drugs and mental health. And she wasn't given that kind of care from the military yet, right? Mental health wasn't a big thing back then. Right now, today, she's been given her full disability, and they honor everything that she has went through now, just this year. Man. And so we're talking about 37 years, right? It took for her to keep fighting.
That's a lot of back pay, though.
And a lot of back pay. And then they even figured out a way to try to limit that. Yes. Ooh. Yes. Yes. It's a capitalistic society for a reason. But so I went, growing up as a child, just trying to search for identity, but that identity wasn't really about who I was. It was like, do you love me? I was trying to be loved. Every home I was in, like, I wanted to feel that kind of love that the the people who had the children, right, how they loved their children, because I always remembered the moments that I had with my mom. The feeling was this all-encompassing love that I knew no matter what, she always had my back. She was not there enough while I was a child, but I still had this like fidelity to her. Like I just knew no matter what, like she loved me. And every time I was with her, I would see that. There was this one time I was in this foster home and I stole a car to sneak out, my brother's car to sneak out to go to a girlfriend's crib, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where I'm in Bellevue. This is military housing, right? And so now I'm driving back, but I kind of ran past the stop sign. I didn't stop all the way. And I got pulled over. Cops came. They called foster parents. I had to go in. And then they're like, Russell Blake here, why would you do this and stuff? And I was like, well, I was meeting my mom. I just lied. I just threw something like, man, I was meeting my mom or whatnot. Sorry. And so then she got on the phone. She's like, let me talk to your mom. And so she called my mom, and it's like 1 something in the morning, you know, sleepy. She was like, Amanda, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Why would you? Right. She's not knowing what's going on. Like, why would you be meeting your son? Instantly. Because on speaker, I hear my mom instantly. She's like, yes, you're right. I'm so, she don't know anything that's happened. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my fault. Now her husband's in the background like, no. He blaming everything, lying on you. Stop. You're right. And I was just like, damn. Even though I wasn't living with her, no matter what, she still tried to show up, right? And that just always like imprinted on me that no matter what, there was no limit to the amount of love that she would show. Now, as I began to unpack a little bit more, I saw kind of like the toxicity in it, because a lot of times she was self-sabotaging. A lot of times I was self-sabotage in order to make myself worthy for someone to just show me that they love me, right? Because when she wasn't there, I was chasing her in all things. I would even tell women like, I can't even be with a woman unless she loved me the way my mom loved me. And that's also accepting all the mistakes that comes with it. As a child, I can't conceive of my mistakes and my wrongs or the things that I still need to heal from, right? But I knew that no matter what it is, that if it was my mom or someone who loved me like my mom, it's still gonna be all right? And so I went through the foster care system and I ended up going to a group home. I'm fast forwarding to like right before I ended up getting emancipated. And so the last stop I had was with Release Ministries. They're still my family today. Garrett and Becky Swanberg, best place I ever been in my life. Best support, best aspect of family that was just like, don't look like me, but like the love is there. The desire to understand is there. The patience is there. The capacity is there, right? The mission is there, you know, and they always showed up and proved that, right? The thing about them is I stole their car too. Now listen, it was different. This time,
Hold up. Hey, I love the setup though. He said that's the best play. They didn't look like me, but I stole their car too.
Yeah, man, I stole their car, but this thing is a little bit different though.
Okay.
It wasn't just about a girl. What it was this time it was another person who was in the group home who was telling me about a party to go to that had women, right? So I'm like, okay, try to drive. And so when I'm driving and we're going on the 42nd Street exit, we're trying to get to North Omaha,
Gotcha.
Right? I go towards West Omaha and I'm like, he's like, bro, this is the wrong one. You're supposed to go to the other ramp. And I'm like, I don't know where anything is. So in my mind at that time, let me do a shortcut. So I start reversing on the entry ramp or the highway.
Oh,
now,
no. Oh, no.
Now, of all people, it just happened to be the chief of police who was doing, I forgot what they call it. He was just like doing a ride out. And it happened to be him to actually pull me over. And so now since he's responding, then you can only imagine how many other police are responding since he's the one responding, right? And so now it's like, they come, they talk they drive me up to a group home, they tell me what was going on. It was like, what would you want to do? And they was like, man, it's cool. We got it from here. And the chief of police at that time, he was like, man, good. Because I don't really think nothing's wrong with them. They were just out joyriding. I really didn't want to had to send him to jail, whatever. So that's cool. If you're cool with not pressing charges, we're perfectly fine with that, right? It's like, cool. My probation officer, who they had to call the next day, right, was like, press charges and everything, take him out there. He needs to go to jail, right? And they stood on 10. They was like, no, like we couldn't. She was mad at them for not actually trying to take me out the group home and press charges, right? And they stood on 10 for me. They was like, no, it's cool, right? Nothing happened. Nobody was hurt or whatever. They were just out just being children, you know? And I was like, man, now I'm not knowing all this is going on in the background until it comes and it surfaces. I'm like, wow. And so like, I think as we grow up in the neighborhoods we come from, we want to see if someone really loves us, if they can accept like something that shouldn't even be acceptable if we had the right direction, right? And so it's like, you have to violate in such a way and have a person be like, man, I'm still riding with you, I still love you, right? To know like, yeah, they're your guy. And so the way that I was affirming love was how much you can love me through the bad I do, right? And I didn't see that, but I know that's just kind of like us, right? We grow up, you know, our hoods, fighting our codes, our cliques or whatnot, even our girlfriends. And we'll even push that limit, right? If she stays after our first mistake. Like, can you love me through my bad? And we're really just looking for an apologist, right? Someone to just accept it and be like, man, you know I ain't perfect, right? And so now you don't even strive to be perfect and stuff. And so, but that touched me. And I was like, oh yeah, they with me, right? And even before that, I knew that they were. But that right there, when I could have just, I'm close to the finish line. And so I was the first one to graduate their group home. And from there, I graduated at Bellevue West High School and I went to Wayne State with a partial scholarship. And then the state was also, you know what I mean, paying that tab too.
Facts.
So facts. But the thing about that was, when you graduate being awarded a state or whatnot, now you have to be an adult. And at that time, again, it's 2007, right? Mental health's not really that big, especially around our community. Now life is hitting you. And now those things that you didn't even have to go through, when you finally just had an easy out, right? Everything is cool. You trust it. You like, I'm cool. I'm safe. I'm protected. Now life is on the other hand, like, oh, okay, what's up? Now you got to do this. And I'm like, and I don't know how to do that, right? I didn't have the emotional stability. I didn't have the identity. I didn't have the mental stability. I didn't have the spiritual recognition or anything. I didn't have no foundation for who I am, who I was supposed to be. As a black man, I didn't even know anything about me having to have some kind of history or legacy or destiny or just pride in my own culture, people, or history, you know? And so when I went to college and I had a relationship, those traumas that I had conditioned myself to suppress and repress, they would come out in moments when I felt like control was lost or I felt betrayed, hurt, talked down on, abandoned. These were the same things that I felt just going through the foster care system or suppressing these feelings that I may feel about my mom because I could only believe that I loved her. But the truth is that she was actually my main abuser. You know, not because she desired to abuse me, but because she was abused, because she was abandoned. And so she didn't abuse me in the way that, all right, I'm mentally, physically, you know, beating you or whatnot. She abused me in her absence, right? And so I never had a father principle ever, right? By nature, I came out without a father principle. And so the mother principle, whose love was just so all-encompassing, she was taken off of her square by the events that happened with me coming into this world, right? And so she ended up naming me Russell, and at first she was like trying to name me like Stefan or Stefan or something like that, right? But again, later on, when we talk about the name, I ended up later on figuring out of my own research and just deep thought and meditation or whatnot, reason why she could have possibly named me that. And we ended up figuring that out later on. But yeah, so at college, I went to play football, track, and rugby. rugby was like an add-on because I'm injured. I'm going in there, you know, playing for these little semi-pro leagues that are growing up around Nebraska around that time, right? And I'm just trying to stay in shape. And I ended up hurting my ankle and my Achilles very bad. Ooh. And so it never was ruptured, but it's like as a running back, and I'm very powerful, but just like, you know, shifty and fast, that kind of like took away. And so as I was trying to come back to even be able to get back on a team or have an opportunity, I was playing rugby, and that kind of, that violent sport, right? It was weird because I kind of revolutionized that because my mind frame was football. And so I'm also a kick returner, punt returner, special teams, right? And so you don't have blockers in rugby, but I'm very shifty. And so I would run. I'm going behind people. I'm a fly. I'm only supposed to be on one side of the field. There's two flies. The flies never meet each other. They're like, hey, yo, what's up? What you doing
wherever
over
it's
there?
open. Wherever it's open, I'm there.
It's like, you left wing, I'm right wing. You can't have two left wings. Right? And so I literally scored as a fly to another fly by weaving in and passing it to him at the left end, right? There's no one left over there, right? So if anything happened and the ball reversed, I've left our whole team vulnerable, right? But it was just like, I was like Barry Sanders into rugby, and it was just so cool. I just didn't like the tackling, right? You had big Samoans and Tonkins and stuff that had big burrow chests, beer bellies, just and then calf muscles that look like bullwinkle. I was like, why are you walking and look like you're peacocking at the same time? You know what I mean? Real talk. So like, these is grown men, and I got a stiff arm that put a crick in my neck for over 3 months. I never forget that. And we were playing like in Minnesota's and South Dakota's, and like the ice was so thin that if you broke it, it's water out there. Now you're freezing. And these people don't have no leggings on, no thing. I'm like, I didn't come out for the second game. I said, man, I don't know what's going on, man. I hurt.
Built different.
Yeah, I dug wreck for that second. I'm just like, man, all right, this is too much. All right, y'all don't have to play this. Y'all have to do this. Still football. So I'm like, football's more prettier than rugby or whatever. I'm like, man, listen, I need a little bit more prettiness. Yeah. Right. So, but from there, in college, I got into a fight, and that's a normal thing, right? But when we got charged and went to court, long story short, we ended up just getting like a fine just for an assault. But they said I can't go. I had a warrant for my arrest. A warrant for my arrest was actually my first son's mom. Me and her were together in high school. I was a senior. I mean, she was a senior that year, and I was a freshman in college. And they had put a protection order out on me. Now, I signed it, never knowing that I signed it. I think I got served at some point in time when I was in the dorms and we were playing like Call of Duty, right? But in my mind, I'm a ward of the state. I'm thinking I'm signing something from the state. And so I'm never actually knowing this whole time that I have a protection order on me. And so me and her, we're kind of going through our ups and downs and stuff. And I had a lot of my mental illnesses, right, go into that relationship in the form of mental abuse, physical abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to speak too much on her family, but I will say is that the perception of us wasn't really a thing that was welcomed, right? And so they said I had a warrant. I'm like, what? And it's like violation of protection order. Now, this violation, I'm like, it's like over 20 of them. I'm like, what the heck? Because now when me and her had our ups and downs, I was like kind of just trying to get away from the relationship. Now, I heard a lot of stuff. I felt a lot of ways. I'm in college. It is what it is. And then I end up finding out that she's pregnant, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, I've always subconsciously wanted my own family because I've been chasing my mom and family my whole life. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, and I told people, I'm like, what does this mean? Now everybody in college, they like pause all dramatically or whatnot, like this is a scarlet letter. Like, you know, like, dude, it felt like a dude took off his hat and stuff and like, like a white man's humming a Negro spiritual or whatever. I'm like, what is going on? But that was like, that means positive, right? Yeah. And I'm like, man. So now in my mind, I'm like, okay. And she's like, her family's not wanting her to talk to her. And so I go down to Omaha and I get a phone through US Cellular. And so now we're talking on that. And now this protection order is on, right? I'm just thinking we're sneaking talking, not I'm violating the law, right? Her mom found the phone, turned it into the police, and I got charged for every single communication that was in that phone. And so when I went to the judge, he was like, I would normally just let this go, but obviously you're not going to stop. Now, I'm in college at this time, right? You're not going to stop, so I'm about to sentence you to a year in jail. He maxed me for the violation of protection order because she was still a minor, right? I'm 18. She's like 17 or something. Like, she's a senior. I don't remember her age. Like, maybe she's like 2 years younger than me. All I know is like we're 1 grade apart. Yeah, she started school early or whatnot. So I'm like, what? I got sentenced to a year, so I had to do just over 6 months in jail, and I lost college overnight. Like,
Scholarship gone,
everything, right? Now, I didn't have a full scholarship anyway, and like I said, still everything, like whole life twisted upside down, and I like to take a minute just, right? I'm like, man, I didn't know really how to deal with that. I came out though, and got taken to her. My best friend, Katie, her mom actually picked me up because they took me to Cass County Jail, Platt Smith. They got the, KKK Carnival. Cass County Carnival, whatever. They all spell them with K's and whatnot. And I got to experience the truth of that town in there too. And so it's like I'm leaving Wayne, and Wayne already is only cultured because of the athletes, right?
Yeah.
And then I go to Sarpy County, and Sarpy County has always been Sarpy County, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm communicating or breaking a boundary, right, of a white family. And so I get maxed out, right? And so then I get out, and now I have to try to get a job. My girl's 6 months. Her family don't want her to live with her. I need help getting an apartment. Garrett and Becky showed up with help. So I had to hurry up and work. I started working for McDonald's, and then I got a job as a car salesman and at Automart 150, and also part-time for Lake Manawa, Nissan and Kia. And she was a CNA. And so we're doing everything by ourselves, and we didn't really have support, right? She was working, I was working. We were trying to figure out how to love each other, trying to figure out how to be parents, right? Trying to figure out how to still have our youth, trying to figure out how not to just be angry and feel like, well, my whole life just got taken away from me. Now I'm just forced to work. And I'm like, all I knew is like, I felt like Booby. Like, what am I gonna do without football? If you want to win, put Booby in. I'm gonna do it, right? Like, that's what was going on in my subconscious. It's like, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing my side. I love you both. But, like, I don't have anything. Like, the only thing that made people love me was football. I remember my family used to say, like, you're going to get us a Benz and stuff like that, right? Like, when it came to football, because, like, I was Killer Man King. Sideline, when you go to Bellevue, they play Killer Man 2. It's called Smear the Queer. I didn't know what that was. It was like, hey, man, I had a friend named Brad or whatever. He was like, hey, man, you want to play Smear the Queer with us? I'm like, nah, I'll watch, right? Yeah. And I'm seeing them. I'm like, oh, that's Killer Man. Let me play. Well, you already know what happened in the suburbs. You know what I mean? I'm running with bare feet in North Omaha. So I get to the suburbs or whatnot. You know what I mean? It's Flintstones times 20. Right? Super duper facts. And so, but yeah.
This video right here is your sign going into 2026 that it's time for you to book your therapy appointment. We're not pushing it off no more. We're not acting like everything is good. We're ready for real change, real improvement, and real abundance to come into our lives. And the first step is making sure you take care of this thing right here. And how you gonna do that? You're gonna click the link that's either down here or up here. You're gonna fill out the form, okay? You're gonna wait for us to give you a call, which it should happen in 24 to 48 hours. And you're gonna lock in with a therapist and start to gain that mental and emotional clarity that you've been looking for. So that every last blessing that you done prayed on and every last goal that you're hoping to start in 2026, it actually comes to fruition. Now, listen, this is not no guarantee that we are going to make everything happen for you. But what I can tell you is that if you got this, the likelihood of you achieving the things that you're telling yourself and all your homies and all your homegirls right now that you want to achieve, the likelihood, it just went up drastically. So let's take this step. Let's book our appointment. Let's get it locked in, and let's start 2026 strong at Bear Company Counseling. Let's get right, and I'll see you on the other side.
So we're trying to work, and there's still things that aren't resolved in me that I can't even identify. It's just that child that when he's feeling lied to, betrayed, right? Lost, abandoned, cheated, right? That thing is coming out and it's always reacting to protect because I'm just not an initiator, right? I've always been kind of introverted, chill, shy and stuff, and I can just kind of flow with things. But I've always been like soft spoken, but it's like when I get there, it's thunder, it's lightning, right? It's fire and brimstone, super duper facts. And she had to take that on, right? She's don't know
The child's
that,
mother.
Yes.
The first child's mother. Okay.
She don't know my story, what I've been through. Not even that would matter. The thing is, like, when in her mind, she's right with what she's doing and how she's perceiving things. I can beg to differ all I want. It don't matter because perception is reality. In my mind, I'm right and I'm hurt. In the world's eyes, I'm wrong, I'm abusive, right? And so there was a lot of shame and powerlessness and narratives that I had no longer any control over, and things that were coming out of me that I didn't even know how to stop because I would black out, right? I wrote a song that later on in prison that got the feature out here in the community, played More Than a Number by Anastasia's Theater. But it's called like, Who Do I Turn To, right? And one of the verses, like, I spazzed out, I don't know what to say, don't know what happened, I just came to from a violent display. I snapped, forgot where I was, thought I had control of myself. These animals don't know nothing else but to just be themselves. I envy them because I can't. I envy them because I can't act like they do. That shit don't help. I growl, I bark, I roar, but people act like they do not know what that means. That means that I fear who and what I don't know. I don't know you step back. That means I fear for you because sometimes I don't know how I should act. Where do I turn to? Who do I turn to when I turn into what I don't want to? God, why do I feel like this? How can I get help? How can I get home? How can I get whole? How can I get help? Right? So that's a verse, but it was about that moment. Because the last moment that I had is I'm yelling at her or whatever, right? Not to put personal business out, but there was a sense of betrayal that happened. And next thing you know, like, I wake up and she's just like, you know, holding herself, whatever. And like, there wasn't nobody else there, right? And so that was me. And that's how our relationship ended. But that was the last image I had. And when I started to heal in prison, although I had forgiven myself of what went on in that relationship, and I've forgiven her and all these things, right? It's still like moments and levels that still unfold. And so it took me towards like me doing 80% of my time before that song even came out of me. I've never fully addressed that moment in my life creatively. And I was healing through creation. I've addressed it through my verbiage, right? And through my own truth and writing down, but never creatively. And so it was a spiritual moment because when I ended up reciting it on the yard, I ended up crying in front of a couple brothers because as I'm saying it, the revelation of like, oh my God, it's the moment. And years prior, I learned about post-traumatic amnesia, right? Which is a common child form of amnesia, that your brain, in order to protect you for the moment, will now like help you forget certain things or suppress certain things or whatnot so you can survive.
It'll dissociate.
Huh?
It'll dissociate.
Yeah, dissociate, right? And so there's so much of that because I have so many fractured stories, right? And more often than not, when I create, it's morally like a spiritual inspiration. It wasn't that I was always sitting down consciously knowing what I was going to start and end at, right? And so I would know what it was that I was saying through actually repeating it, right? And that's when I understood that it wasn't like I was trying to be a rapper for anyone to hear my music or a poet for anyone to hear me, because I didn't identify with those things. I was an athlete. People identified those things for me. It was that I realized that our creative aspects are also our Bible. It helps to reveal to us where we are, why we are, when we are, right? So we can, you know, adjust and perform the right gesture so we can have a path of least resistance and we can experience our highest good and not have to re-experience the things that we don't like, things that make our soul cry, right? And so, but you have to experience it so you can have the memory, right? And that sense of shame lets you know that this is how your soul really feels. It's not for you to attach yourself with, right? Many times, I think most humans can identify that with that whenever they feel shame or guilt, they attach themselves to that for longer than a season, right? And now, as they went on with life, with that attachment to shame and guilt, it's also followed them through every other act of progress or success that they've achieved. That identity ran with them. And so it's never actually been let go of. It's never been dealt with. And so that was kind of like things that I was realizing through like my own creative journey in prison. Just things constantly unfolding, a story of recreation and recreation, so to speak.
Absolutely. Something that you just mentioned, bro, this concept of shame and attaching the identity of shame to ourselves or to an individual, and not seeing guilt that we have as just a season or as a moment. Because like there's this big difference. Shame is like I am bad. Guilt is like I did something wrong, or like I messed up. It's not me. It's just it's an action, or it's a result of an action that I did. Shame is like, this is me. This is the identity. And man, so many people, like you just said, go through life with that identity attached to them that they can't even see these moments that they're going through, these trials or these periods as seasons. Yes. It's just one season and that's it. My life is shit. My life is fucked up. Like that's the trauma piece. and it almost sounds like for yourself, throughout this journey of your younger years, going through different foster homes, going to group homes, experiencing all these different things, being on the side of abuser and things like that, like it's almost like you lived one season of life, which is, this is fucked up and I just need to make it through. I need to survive. Some things early on, even too, like you were speaking with your mom, you adore your mom, but the realization of like, man, my mom was one of my biggest abusers and I didn't even realize it. Yeah. And I know coming to those realizations sometimes hurt, because it's like, how do I put the person who I revere so much on the chopping block? Or let's reframe it like this: how can I make them be accountable? Yeah. They don't need to be accountable. I'll hold it for them. And that right there is another trauma response, right? Like so many of us try to hold the weight that was never ours to carry, but then we don't even realize when we hold that weight, now we're carrying it around. And we embody and we start to take on that very thing. That's what I heard through what you were sharing in your story. With the last situation with your first child's mother, that you blacked out with, is that the event that ultimately led to you ending up in prison for the 12-year bid?
No. See, in truth, I never got to go through the full process of what they call justice or whatnot. It was in Iowa, right? Because for some reason, like, I guess the private detective was trying to get a hold of her, and there was inconsistent reach back, and then at the same time, I guess, inconsistent stories of it, right? And so they didn't feel confident going forward. I do remember, though, when I was like calling, like, hey, trying to figure out what's going on, I do remember a police senior saying, you know what you did, like yelling at me or whatnot, like, da-da and everything, you're going to jail, blah, blah. Like, when I called in the, like, hey, is there a warrant? Like, what's going on, right? And stuff. And I'm like, man, hold on. Who are you talking? Ain't I innocent? And I remember saying that, right? And I'm like, I ain't never got like cussed out by a police officer before like that over the phone. And I was like, dang. And I ended up going to jail, and I bonded out through a bail bondsman. And then I tried to run back to college, right? That was the only thing I understood. Like, well, I got a whole friend base there, and my friends have always been my family. And so even now, I've always had like extended family through my friendships. And that was a projection, and at the same point in time, a necessity. And it doesn't make it any less, because those bonds helped give me like the strong fibers that a family would have in order to get to the places that I've been today, right? So I can acknowledge things, see things. I always had like friends who just had like a different sense of awareness of who I was before I could know, right? People just speaking to like, you know, my greatness or my goodness, or like I have my best friend is Katie. I have several best friends, but my best and longest friend is Katie. And she's behind me starting Pros of a Con and everything, really behind everything that is now. She was the one, like, you know, she was in North Carolina the whole time when I was in prison or whatnot. And she was like, the best time to plant a tree is yesterday, right? And so that's when I went forth with the blog, and she did all the man work, right? I'm writing, mailing it to her, and she's transcribing everything, right? Before we end up getting better technology in prison to make that easier. But her and her mom always used to talk about how beautiful my dark skin was. Now, Katie has like, what's that like when you have like the blotches of the skin, like lack of melanin in parts?
Vitiligo?
Yeah, she has that, right? She's very white, not like powder white, right? But, and then has vitiligo, right? There was a couple people in my family, but also my family was kind of like a source of like trauma, and at the same point in time, like I'm just trying to like, I just want y'all to affirm me type stuff, right? So it never really rang there, right? But they would always talk about how beautiful my black skin was. And it was so crazy because when I got later on in prison, when I began to have an identity, that's what immediately started echoing back in my ear was like her mom was like, while I was out in this Bellevue land, right? We're like the only two human beings while I'm out in white land affirming how beautiful my dark skin is, right? And it's not from no fetish things. It's just pure, honest love. Like me and Katie's never been intimate or anything. That has literally been my best friend. Her mom has been like a mom or whatnot, right? And that was like a thing that I oddly was comfortable saying, right? And even without an understanding of myself, I never would feel comfortable calling anyone who didn't look like me that kind of thing, because no matter what, I always gave like my mom the most respect, right? But I went to prison for robbery. It was later on, like my life was just like, I went back to jail. My fault. I went back to college. I'm not even really going to college classes. I'm kind of partying. I've never really been a heavy drinker or a heavy smoker, but I'm dibbling and dabbling. But that's as much.
You was going to the Max, going to Riley's.
Yeah, I was going to Max, the Riley's or whatnot, the house parties with Taino and everybody, right? And so my guy, Joe Foster, but we were always fighting, right? Like we were from the hood. And so, you know, you go to these places that are coming from other places than Wayne, you know, people talking, you know, slick but there was a situation that happened. I got in a fight, and from that fight, I was supposed to get like 2 years of probation. On my sentencing day, I punched this guy who got rough with a female at a party. Now, understand, in my mind, I'm avenging this woman, but subconsciously, I'm actually avenging my own shame from what I did.
Making atonement.
Exactly. And so, because in truth, in character, that was never me. Those was transformations, right, as a result of circumstance from a child that was not even recognized. But I'm seeing it there, and so I'm just like, and then now he's taller too. And I was told by my friend Daniel Lee Craft, like, hey bro, just chill, just let it go.
I know Dan.
Right, yeah.
I know his brother Nelson too.
Yep, those we had a whole thing. It's me, Daniel, Nelson, JJ, and Alex. We called ourselves the Coalition, the best friend group. Like I got a picture with him, that's
Alex Marquez?
My brother. Huh?
Alex Marquez?
Alex Marquez? Yes. Yep. So and I punched that man. Like I was like, I let him push me a couple of times. I'm like, hey, now I'm sizing him up. I'm like, I'm standing there because now I'm sizing him up. He don't know he's drunk, belligerent or whatever. And then I just hit him once right here. And then I turn around and walk away. And in my mind, I'm like, I already sized you up. I'm like, I can take whatever you're going to do, right? And it's going to give me the opportunity to really just, let go. And I'm walking and he never touched me, right? And we get back in the car. Next thing you know, I'm getting blown up, right? I'm like, pretty much this man landed on the concrete like an inch away from the grass, busted his head on the concrete, fractured right here, got life flighted out of Wayne. So now it went from a fight to I'm possibly facing murder. And in my mind, I'm like, I need to get out the country. I don't know. I had a friend at that point in time. Her name was Alyssa. She later on gave me a son, Traven, whose car I had that night. And when they went and surrounded the California house, because they was like, hey, bro, you can come over here, man. The cops come. It don't matter, man. We ain't going to let them in. We know our rights type stuff, right? And so I'm like, okay, yeah, y'all from the hood, cool. I'm not knowing the laws that if it's a felony, they can come in anyway. Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. Someone went there, and then they left. It was feeling uncomfortable. And then they told me, it was like, hey, bro, just letting you know, someone calling the cops or whatever, like, you ain't got to leave, and we ain't going to let them in. We know what's up, blah, blah, blah. I said left. I didn't. I stayed in. You know, man, the county, the city, and the state troopers all surrounded the house in a small town. I was like, you know, guns drawn and some more stuff. I had my cell phone. This dude was so anxious. He ran in past the people with the gun, with the taser aiming it at me. Like, he just anxious, like just want me to do something. And so I went to Pierce County Jail, which is a horrible jail.
Pink walls.
Yes, pink wall, blue wall, yellow wall. I was
in there.
Yeah, it's with Rick Eberhardt, racist sheriff from Germany. That, oh my God, it's just like to be in there for a long term. It's just hell. And so when my sentencing day came up, the plea agreement was 2 years of probation. I went in there, sentenced, expect to leave. I wasn't going to be staying in Wayne no more. I was leaving. I was transferring. Off the rip, man. I had no ties. And so there was like, pretty much like, I need to take some type of responsibility. Like, I'm just going to get all slate clean. As in, you ain't going to stay here. You ain't going to be playing football or anything like that or whatever crap. I'm like, you about to go to prison. So I got sentenced to 1 to 2 years in prison. By the time I get to prison, they tell me, they was like, well, whatever program or classes that you would need to take, you don't even physically have enough time to even take it. You just have a what they call like a booking number. Like, they gave you a number just so you can get booked. Because I wasn't even on no yard for a year, because I was already at that county jail for over 3 months, right? And so I went to LCC and just kind of got like my first prison experience, right? Which was like, I did good. I could survive. You know, I'm athletic, so you know when you're an athlete in prison, where you can play everything. I'm big, I'm stocky, I'm strong, or whatever. So you can't miss me. I'm funny at times, you know, and I don't have no like addictions. I mean, I don't gamble, I don't drink, I wasn't smoking, right? I was just a cool person. A couple people kind of felt some type of way, like I was weird because I just wasn't on that hood time. Other person like, bro, like, way cool. Like, I was just different. But then they would call me Wayne State. And inside of my head, I was subconscious about that. Like, self-conscious about it. Like, Wayne State, like, what do you mean Wayne State? Like, you know what I mean? As if like you saying, like, I went to college and that's a demotion, right? On who I can be, you know, in this facility or whatnot. And so it was like a weird thing. But I got out, and from then, in truth, I had paroled to my second son's mother, and we weren't agreeing, and I just never wanted to be in there. Like, she didn't understand, like, my mental health was so messed up. I didn't want to be in there. You know, we argued. The yelling would trigger me. This shit talking would trigger me. And before then, it wouldn't have been too much. But I'm like, I just got done getting emasculated, right? And to come here and have this, it was too much, and I didn't have the language for it. Right? I wasn't even in there long enough to try to do some soul searching or whatnot. And so I'm trying to leave, and then we get in an argument, and then she grabs me, and I push her back against it. And I'm even blacking out through that. There wasn't the physical violence like in my first son's mother's case, but the police got called because of yelling. But I also, before that, called my parole officer, like, hey, can you allow me to go to Daniel's house overnight? I don't feel comfortable here. I need to leave, this, that, and third. And like, nope, I had to stay there. Everything, we'll be there tomorrow morning. And an hour later, police get called, right? I tell them what I did when I told her I pushed her off me or whatever. Like, she taller than me, 5'9", 5'10", you know what I mean? If I did punch up with her, I'm not punching up with her, but, you know, I'm sitting here like, you know, one point in time, she pushed me. I'm like, hey.
She had you hemmed up.
It's just the height thing. It's a leverage thing. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I went to jail based off of my admission of me getting her away from me.
Yeah.
She never told them that I hit her or whatever, because that never happened, right? She told her truth. There wasn't anything that she said that I'm in objection of today, right? But they still sent me there. And then when they sent me there, they tried to max me out for domestic third degree. And I told them at court, I'm like, if y'all do this, I'm on parole. Like, that means that I can't go to work release. Why can't you go to work release? Like, well, work release is a minimum facility. These are things I was just learning. And so I can't actually go to work release if I have a pending charge or a sentence. I'll have to come out and go there. So that means I'll be going to prison and coming straight to county jail and then getting out of county jail with no transitioning, no job, no nothing. You know what they did? They stopped court, had the court reporter go in the back room to get the information and see if I was telling the truth. In Wayne County, they are not in touch with how the legal process is, the prison process is. They're just throwing numbers. And I don't know how many other counties, how many other judges aren't familiar. But then they came back and they changed their mind and changed my sentence. And instead of running it consecutive, they ran it concurrent so it can run together. So really, I would be actually jamming from them 17 days before I actually got out of prison. So therefore, I still didn't go to work release, right? I'm like, and so I pretty much came back to society from prison, not too long out of being in a dungeon at LCC. And so I went back to Wayne, and then I left. I went to Omaha, like I didn't want to stay there.
What year was this?
This was 2012. 2012. The first charge happened in 2010. Towards the end, I was picked up at December, and I got out of prison in April of 2012. My son with her, because we had sex a couple times, came in August. I'm not knowing too much about this, right? I'm hearing stuff, but I'm like, my mind's not there. And I did end up meeting him for the first time in August. I'm like, you said it's my son. Like, all right, when y'all come to Omaha, I'm there. And so I met him, got to hold him and stuff. But I'm also homeless at that time. I'm sleeping on one of my longest friends, another one of my best friends, my longest man friend, Nate, sleeping on his couch. My cousin Isaac sleeping on his couch, right? Like, I'm just like in limbo. I can't work the places I used to work because, felonies, like companies weren't getting incentives yet. Well, they were, but they weren't really receptive of any of that information and comfortable yet and stuff. And so I'm like, man, I done sold insurance, sold cars. All right, I don't want to be like flipping burgers again. And so it's like my pride, and then also trying to tell people I need help. I'm like, and so at one point in time, I was like, wanted to do robberies. I have experience. I did one time with a friend, his name won't be mentioned, but when we came in there, like he was really the aggressor, and I'm like, I was scared. I was shaking or whatnot. He actually tried to talk stuff about that years later or whatnot, but
It is what it is.
I say our stories took different forms. You know what I mean? That's not what you call. But yeah, I was scared, but it came back around, and so I saw this group of, there were like 3 Mexican men. They were coming to my bro's house, who I would see. It was like my god brother. He was really the brother of my foster brother, right? And then I asked him, like, hey, what do y'all think about doing some robberies, right? And so I'm kind of like I just went to interview, right? I'm still on job in Monster, whatever the crap, those search engines, those job things from back then. I'm still on that, right? Still trying to find jobs every single day. They was like, yeah. And so we created a group called Black Diamond Family, right? And besides saying all the specifics, I say, like, my fall partner was J-Rock. He had a twin brother, an identical twin, right? He's still doing time. He's going to be coming out soon for something unrelated. Me and J-Rock went down on the case that you're asking about, and then there was Munch. But and I was the one and only black guy, but I was older than them as well. And so I'm scoping the places out, and we're just doing ordered robberies, right? And the thing is like, it's not about just going to cash registers, right? It's just like waiting till it's about closed and whatever the crap, right? So it can just be cool, neat, or whatever, or might do a distraction robbery over here to do something right here to get the police call, right? And so it was like, yeah, so we had rules. Like, this can only be used to enrich, like, yourself, put yourself in a better position to help out your family. Your bills got to get paid first. And 2, no women, no individuals, no houses, no small businesses, right? Everything is, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much like back at the system. Like, yeah, y'all can afford this insurance, right?
Yeah.
And so we end up getting caught because I just did a random spare robbery, and they did a random profiling. And what you call a profile, right? Although there was an inconsistent identification on the scene, and that was also a prejudicial thing, right? They weren't supposed to do that. And fruits of a poisonous tree, because they had tried to identify us through a windshield after 9 o'clock at night.
How are you gonna see me?
Exactly, right? And so, but now when I'm fighting this in county, and then bro was like, man, I'm gonna try to take the gun, right? Because they gave us, I had a paid, he had a public, but it was both public defenders. And he was like, he's gonna take the gun, and they instantly said, if he takes the gun, they're gonna hit us both with it. He wanted to take the gun since I had children. He didn't have children, right? So I'm like, man, it's okay, I took it. So I got blamed on my number, right? And he got a way smaller number. And the judge just tried to say, like, I'm sentencing you like this because you know better, because you're smart. I'm seeing your PSI, all these people who wrote letters or whatever. It's like pretty much because I had people saying all these good things about me, I'm about to sentence you there longer because you should have done better. You should have knew better, right? The cops was like, the soccer moms don't feel comfortable. I never knew that term. The truth was is most of our robberies was happening in West Omaha. We wasn't in our backyard, right? And so that also did another thing, right, to the assessment. And then not too long after that, Nico Jenkins did his thing. And so I got sentenced after Nico did his thing and stuff. And so that was September 10th, 2013. I went to prison on the number that you're asking, February 6th, 2013. And I was released February 21st of this year, 2025. So I had served 12 years and 15 days, but that was for robbery and use of a weapon. And so I had a 5-year mandatory. So that's 5 years with no good time I had to do. And so I had 2 7 to 10, so it was 14 to 20 with a 5-year mandatory. So I had to pull in, it's weird math, 9.5 years to even be eligible for parole, 12 years to jam, right? Or 12.5 years to jam. Yeah, 12.5 years of jam. No, it was 12 years of jam. Then they did a recalculation because something happened in central office, and supposedly people got pulled off the streets to go do more time because there was miscalculations. We all got more time added, right? And so my number was originally, I would have to do 9.5 years of parole, 10 years to jam. And then 2.5 years got added to my number back in 2014, right? This was the same year as the Mother's Day riot that happened in Tecumseh and stuff. So yeah, it was for robbery.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you. One, when y'all were doing the robbery, right? It sounded like y'all had a little organization going there. Not glorifying or anything, but I'm just curious. Like, was there a lot of success to what y'all were doing as y'all was doing it, and what did that look like?
It's something I don't apologize for to this day. I know that there's harm. You know, just studying restorative justice, understand that any harm in the community is a harm to the community. And so I always have to acknowledge that and just be truthful about that. But at the same point in time, I'm not going to live and put more gravy on it than what it deserves. I was the mind behind every single robbery, and every single robbery was based off of not hurting anyone. And to be honest with you, a quarter to half of the people started helping us. Right? It was a psychological thing or whatever. My whole thing was like, I'm trying to make you calm. Sometimes like gave a story. Our very first robbery that almost didn't work out, the lady ended up, hey, wait, hold on. Got to wait to hit the safe or whatnot, because if you open it before this, alarm's going to trigger. If you turn on the lights all at once, it's going to trigger, right? And so I'm waiting with her, getting the safe open. Now, in truth, she's coming out. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and it's just not working out. And so we then tracked all the way down this railroad. We call it the great adventure, the great expedition or whatnot, right? We was running on the side of a train, came down the snow or whatever. Now this is out in the Oakview area. And she finally came out because we're trying to see who was in. She finally came out, and I'm looking, I'm like, dang, man, don't want to waste this because this is the very first time, and I'm going to look like a fraud or whatever, right? So I end up just kind of walking, and I'm freestyling because I'm 100% uncomfortable with this. 100%, real talk. But so I had to put on an act. And then she's opening her car and I stopped her from closing. I'm like, hey, don't say nothing. Move over. Just move over. And now I'm trying to rehearse in my head, like, what do I say? What do I do? I'm telling like, listen, we about to rob your place. No one's going to hurt you, all right? And I told her a story like, just like, just not able to get a job, then been in prison, whatever, the crap, trying to help, like, my children, this, that, and the third, whatever, blah, blah. And then she was like, man, I get it, I understand, and the system's fucked up, this, that, and the third, just cool. I'm like, all right, now we're going to ride over here to the side. My brothers are over there waiting. And she was like, all right, like, can I just drive? I just feel more comfortable if I drive. I'm like, okay. I was like, all right. So I'm like, do I get out or you? Matter of fact, let's just switch seats. So we having a, proximity and closeness is just being violated, right? Yeah. But not like that, right? Women have a sense, you feel me? And regardless of what story I was telling her, she could tell from my energy, like, you're not about to get harmed by me, right? And she could trust. So, and she was kind of like one of those more emo type, so they already are different, right? Yeah. And so, so we switched seats, and then I told her, like, over here to the side. And now this wasn't choreographed. Out of nowhere, it's like they popped up out of the snow. 1, 2, 3, and single foul that ran in the back of the thing. In my head, we always talk about the shot. Like, oh my God, that looks so cool. Like, we look so organized, right? And then we just went. She backed up and drove 50 feet to where the door was. Gave us the instruction. I was like, me and Rock's gonna go in, right? But y'all stay here. Me and Rock's more the calmer, right? Chill. We're more the people versus, right? So we go in, and then she's just like instructing, like helping us, right? And so he's getting everything in the back or whatever the product, because we weren't just doing safes. It was just like the cash register and products or whatever. So then we can flip that. It's like there's no point in having 4 people do a robbery and just running in for 2 seconds and emptying out a kit, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so then when it was all said and done, we get in the car. She drives us because our car is like a mile away, right? Because it's just one of them areas, like there's a big area in between the neighborhood and the business section or whatever. And so we get there. And then we get out. She was like, y'all honestly are like the most organized, and y'all move like a military. And they was like all excited because they're like, you know what I mean? I'm like, for sure. I'm just like, for sure. So they get out the car, they run to the car, and they open up the trunk, and now they're switching up the clothes, right? And I'm in there, so I'm like, are you cool? You don't want to go back to the work? She's like, no, I'm just going to go home. In my mind, I'm like, how are you going to go home? It's going to look like you orchestrated that, right? She's like, no, I'm just cool. I'm tired. I'm just going to go home and stuff. And so I was like, so you want to go out on like a date or something? That's a fact. Like, it was so weird and so comfortable. I was just like, so.
This nigga was on, you ever seen Town? With Ben Affleck?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, man, it was so crazy. Like, she laughed, she was flattered, but she was like, no, and everything. I was like, all right, for sure. All right, well, thank you. You know what I mean? And so just kind of like left. But This is what we will always play during, on the way to, and on the way from robberies. I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, when I had to grind like that, to shine like this. In a matter of time I spent on some locked up shit in the back of the paddy wagon, cuffs locked on wrist. See my dreams unfold like that Meek Mill intro. And it's like, hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That was our ritual, bro. That, we, and possibly optional a case of Budweiser, right? None of us was like heavy drinkers or whatever, and so beer or whatnot. But sometimes I would actually pick up my girlfriend at that time after a robbery. And so they're like, hi, I'm not gonna say her name, right? And it went to us having to be aggressive, to us just being family, to us like just chilling. I'm picking up my lady, and now they the little bros respecting my woman or whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, it was crazy. At one point in time, her job was saying that they have to all be escorted to their car after work because the rush of robberies. What they don't know is like that was her man that was doing that. Their job was safe, right? Her job that played her wasn't safe, and they got hit. Right, 100%. Right? You know what I mean? And so it was just like on some personal Robin Hood stuff. But again, the state felt what was going on in West Omaha more so than anything else and stuff. So, but yeah, it was a brotherhood. We for real loved each other. there was problems later on or whatnot. Then when you go to prison, there's cultural things, right? And my guy J-Rock, he didn't get what the essays were. He has to be with Paisa, but he stayed loyal to what it was that we had, right? Now, I was a GD, right? So I'm still a GD, but I still stay loyal to what me and him had. And so no matter what, he always spoke up his bro or whatever, and I always spoke him up or whatnot. He held his own, and we didn't allow prison politics to ever create any wedge, right? He grew up as a Crip, not any Mexican gang or whatever, and he stayed on that, you know, and so we just developed a more powerful bond, but he got out way early. And then later on, when we met each other again, I was so different that there was some harm there because he didn't really know how to talk to me. And like my personality had changed. I kind of just been like more neutral, less expressive, like more contemplative, more meditative, right? And just not into all the intangibles, like the things that you say and do to make people feel good or to affirm. I've never really been like a storyteller or a small talk person. So if I'm not giving you like extroverted energy, a lot of times people can be confused off of my energy.
Get uncomfortable.
Right? Exactly. And so, but he just had to learn who I was, and he felt guilty because he felt like he didn't hold up his end when he got out. But I'm like, bro, you was young. You didn't have, like, you came back, you got 2 sons now. You know what I mean? Like, you got an opportunity to live life. I ain't mad at none of that. I love you. I had to go on my own journey. You know what I mean? So I showed back up to him as way of life. And to his credit, he was able to see and accept that. Most people will never be able to let those things go, right? He was able to see way of life and then not only see it, believe in me, and then sit and say who the heck I was, right? And this is a for real warrior. And so him just like showing all the respect, all the just like, hey bro, salute and everything. I love you, my brother, and everything, right? We finally kind of had the real brother moment to Chance the Rapper's song, The Sun Come Down. I watched the sun come down, right? And just he ended up like crying or whatever, you know, and just it was just like a bond moment that just kind of like refortified what it was that we had. And we've been close ever since then, you know. And so, but yeah, that was a needed chapter that created a brotherhood that will last a lifetime.
Bro, how did I said 2 questions last time, but for real 2 questions, 2 parts. So one, when you got charged, when you got your 12-year bid, was it for all of the things that, like, were they tracking all of it, or?
They implied everything else because they saw pictures of the same car in certain areas, but it was just for one place.
Fact.
And so my first robbery ever, it's both times I've been in prison, it's just like I just got wiped out. Like I ain't getting no ready, set, go type things or whatnot. So, like really all 3 times when I went to jail, the full max, that time left the probation thing. Everybody in college who gets fights, 2 years of probation. It's like a thing, you feel me? And stuff, and especially it keeps the people from Florida and from them leaving and whatnot. And I'm like, man, so then I got upgraded. And I'm like, man, this is like, it's crazy or whatever. Then it was always like some white harm though, no disrespect, but like, you know, my lady, that man, and then West Omaha, right? It was like, but the crazy thing is, like I always say that if it wasn't for my support system, prison would have made me racist. Because I have some of the greatest white people that I know. I don't want to speak for anybody else's white people that they know in their lives or any white people, black peoples, or whatever the crap, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was just about to say that's some of the greatest.
That's some of the best. Like, I mean that though. Like, I mean that. And so when I say that, what I'm really saying is human beings. Yeah. Because this color thing is a construct. It's not real. And so although when we come to talk and speak of our traditions or our language differences, we identify these things as white things or black things, et cetera, et cetera. But these are some of the most beautiful human beings. And just to show love and respect, I'm just going to name them. Garrett and Becky Swanberg, Jeannie Bates, Lynn, Lauren, Eli. Eli was my producer. Lynn was my publicist with Green Collector. Eli's producer was Soul Clap Records. Lauren Siegel, she's run Give a Beat or whatnot. She helped pretty much make my site professional. Katie, right? That was my best friend. Her name is Katie Cox now. She's married. You know, Tiffany Kellerman, I wasn't able to talk to her as much. She was on her own journey or whatnot, but she was originally from Iowa. Her stepdad was racist as hell. I was her best friend, you know what I mean? And we were like in 5th grade, you feel me? And so for her to even be able to have that concept, right, and following through, like they for real from like, you know what I mean, the small area of Iowa, right? And I've just always been her brother, right? And she's actually getting married here in a couple of days and stuff. Like with Katie, I was her best man at her wedding while I was in prison. And it was just a picture of me on her photo booth business that she just created. And I got to do a recording over the phone that her husband, like, you know, played for her at the wedding, right? Like that's how important I was. And so when she was saying she has this friend in prison, she would take me everywhere. She's a successful businesswoman on the East Coast of North Carolina. And so if it wasn't for the steadfast love that I was receiving with these people who are just coming to know me or who I already knew, Katie's mom, right? I'd be racist as hell because in prison you have no choice because the things that we think is done are inflamed and they come in the shapes of correctional officers and administrative bodies and then the cast, which is us, who are now divvying up what it is that they're putting up on us or whatnot and feeding into these narratives and these roles. And what was always a unanimous thing, period, everybody knew they did not want Black people to come together. That was the thing to the many different phases I've had in prison, right? From the ignorant side in this wartime to is riot time or whatever to when now I'm more conscious and I'm formulating protests, whatever, on OCC yard over like, you know, George Floyd and stuff like that, right? And they're feeling triggered by me walking around with a circle of Black people. Black people starting to see the CO start to fall on us. They're following off. And now it's just me and 2 other people. One brother's name is Hani, formerly known as Trey 57, and they really just pulled us 2 and another brother in, but it was really me and him who was the voice. And it was like, man, how can we, you know, what's going on is not right or whatnot. Maybe we can allow y'all to order yourselves up at the bleachers, right? The thing is that they always wanted to come against Black people coming together. It was never a thing to keep Mexicans together, separate, because that's a thing. They come in, it don't matter what beef you had or whatever crap, you all have to fit under this one umbrella. Yeah. And their politics makes them stay in prison. You can't try to leave, right? You get violated for trying to get the work release, for doing programs in class. It's a form of snitching and telling, right? Now, politics then kind of like got salted now because the drug crisis is so big there, right? Which is also part of the design. But yeah, man, like prison will really make you conscious of who you are. And if you don't have any extra study behind that, you'll stay locked in that mode. And so now it's like you'll be hyper vigilant, hyper aware, and just like hyper reactive to anything that has to do with politics. Mm-hmm. There is no understanding. There is no, like, if I got an opportunity to, you know what I mean, get one off, right, with one of them, right, that's the thing to do. You know what I mean? And stuff. And as long as it don't have no big things that's going on with the essays and the Blacks, everything's cool because that gets very big, right? And it's always very violent because Black people don't get whooped. And essays can't take losses. Therefore, if there's a loss,
somebody got to die.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it can't stop. Somebody got to, you know what I mean? Like, you got to go on a mission no matter how many times dude keep coming out of the hole, and so administration will have to leave or I have to go up or whatnot. That's their politics. You can't take a loss. And, you know, not many of us is taking losses, right, at the end there. So that was like it was a thing of survival that what we saw visually on the TV through revolutionary times, like no matter what your politics was or understanding or historical consciousness, now you're in that. And so it's the truth of what really is here in America, what really still lives in the homes of Americans that don't get talked about. It gets realized in prison. And so now you have people in prison with their own traumas having to now navigate human beings in the forms of enemy and possible enemy. And then brother, but still watch out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so your mind is constantly like in war. That's why I call prisoners veterans, right? And so that that's a psychodynamic that doesn't really get brought to surface, how a person in prison has to navigate mentally their surroundings on a day-to-day basis with no ability to escape, right? Because out here with healing, like I got to detach, I got to step away. right? I need some time for myself. Like, what does that even mean when your time is their time? When it's count time, when it's child time, when it's visit time, when it's program time, when it's class time, when it's, when you got to use the bathroom, when the facilities are messed up, and now you have to use the bathroom only at certain point in times in porta potties and stuff, or the showers are messed up, right? And so now you got to fit in these shower blocks, or the phones are messed up, or there's a riot, so now people can't use the phone, and so now you have to be able to, and it went from 15 minutes to now 2 hours. Now you've created docility, right? Because now you're creating the comfort, and now we're throwing entertainment there. And so now it's like, okay, this is a luxury stay. You're actually training people to not do for themselves, but to distract themselves 24/7. And you have to distract yourself if you're not mentally equipped, because you're going through a war 24/7 that you may or may not realize. And it's anti-human, because that's not what being a human is. Being a human don't mean be on guard, be on watch, and keep an eye on your neighbor like that, to be suspicious. They said there's these behavioral problems and thinking patterns that Black people had. I think it was Neely Jr., or just one of our African psychologists, but it was like frustration, alienation, abnegation, apathy, lethargy, suspicion, anger, resentment, aggression, right? These are like things that were like prototypical of our process of how we perceive our reality, and it gets magnified in prison.
My next question for you was going to be around that. What was the experience like? But I think you just gave, a healthy dissertation into the dynamics of prison. I want you to dive a little bit deeper, and I want you to talk about your personal experience. One of the things that you mentioned briefly is just being a GD. Did that indoctrination for you come in prison, or was it before prison? And then just kind of like give us a little bit of story or backstory on just like what your stay was like while you were there, and how you began the transformative process, or not how you began the transformative process, or how your cocoon started to wrap around you. Because again, this thing that you're talking about right now, and y'all probably see this, it's a journey. It's a long journey, but it's one that didn't happen at one particular point in time. It's one that's been continuous and going. And so, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, first off, what's it called? Like when you faking something, like not like being a fraud or whatever, but like when you infiltrated something or whatever the crap. Like, well, I'm gonna say this. Well, all the respect that I have for what a GD is, and being a GD, in truth, I was an infiltrator.
Okay.
And I say that because of the politics that I ended up having to live behind, the study, the history that I became known, that I had to know. Before prison, I was a GD, but in truth, the true blessing that you would get to be a GD, right? I didn't really go through that, right? It was through proximity of like friends and those who were official in their own right. Now, was I able to check out if they were or not? No. And so therefore, if someone had to call home on me, right, you would have to call friends that knew me as this, but at the same time, like I wasn't politicking outside of prison. Like this was just another dressing of a family, right, for when I went behind, when I was in jail or whatnot, right? But I just never been a violent person. Not to say the GDs are violent. I never really, I've had family members in the projects and 40th Ave, whatever crap, right? This was by circumstance. And it was a heaven sent, because later on in my route, just understand the principles of what GD was, that came up around the Black Panther movement and also Black consciousness movement. And so their principles are really the same principles that you will find whenever you're trying to actually liberate your mind as a man and you're trying to do for your community as a people, right? And so later on, I found this out, and I'm not knowing this, but I was very intrigued because like GD is like a nation, an organization, it's not a block, right? And so I went into prison, said I was GD or whatever. I just pretty much played the part as much as I could early on to listen, to learn, to show like that discipline, So I wasn't a person that would ever create undue heat or attention, I didn't have affinities. Then I ended up becoming like number 2, right? And just out of respect for whoever may still or may not be in that, I don't want to start, speaking any lit or whatever the crap. So I became the second person, right? And riots happened. I went to the hole or whatever. The person who was number 1, who ended up becoming like one of my big bros, he's gonna be coming out here soon. I love him so much. I owe so much to him, right? His name is Q, Sam Smith. He's another prophet that y'all need to have your eyes out for. Super duper facts. Hold on, the cornbread talking. But so then I became number 1 through a letter like, hey, yo, you got it now. And I was always told that I can politic, I can communicate. I was a leader. I didn't identify with these things. I thought these things meant that, oh, you scared to get it in. The truth was that was never my first instinct to be violent, right? And so I would probably be like one of the more softer leaders. Not to say that I would shy away from violence, but I just had a different thought of things. And I could see people just because of how I had to grow up in foster homes and group homes my whole life, whether I had to acknowledge it or not, knew it or not. I was like a professional just analyzing people, even workers from the state, right? And so the riot that happened is war. There's situations with GDs and Mexicans happening on every single yard, and Tecumseh is the dump yard. That's where you inherit everything. And so now when you're that seat, and when it comes to black people, the highest thing that you can be is a GD, right? That's the biggest respect. And you obviously have your other things like vice lords, et cetera, et cetera. But GD is like the creme de la creme, right? Obviously, this isn't a sanctioned or a commissioned state. And so depending on who is GD and from where they came from, whether they're coming in from the feds, Chicago, Mississippi, et cetera, right? People are like trying to call home and say, hey, where you from, whatever, what's your number, this, that, and the third. And so this was like a whole new life I'm having to learn, and it was helping me order myself the same way that you would if you was a Black Panther or if you was from the Nation of Islam, right? Or if you was a House of Yahweh, because they they extreme.
Yeah.
So they the Muslim version of Christians. So super duper facts. But yeah, and so then there became infighting and jealousy, right? I end up saying like in one of these raps or whatnot, like about like homie had to check my chin, told him if you do it again, you're gonna need extra wind because I got a violation. It was all some fluke stuff, right? But then the person's like, no, that one didn't count. You're gonna get this one yourself type stuff, right? And so I never had to go through violations or anything like that, right? I just had a high moral conduct and care about not creating mess. I'm very like neat and efficient. And I'm very private, and so it kind of gave me a different look about what was going on because I wasn't in these circles where people are gambling or arguing for me to just be blind and prejudiced and stuff. But as we're going on, I'm starting to write for people. I would write things like The Clutch of Deception and many different thoughts on that or whatnot. And I would write eulogies and baby come back letters, commission things or whatever. Commutation letters. And people were just knowing me as a person who can write. And I'm like, yeah, I can write that. There was still no identification there. And then one of my friends, Quayle, Dwight Tucker, he was like, oh, you're the best writer I've ever seen in my life. And so he was teaching himself how to play the guitar. And so I was teaching myself how to rap to his guitar. And so I first was learning how to rap truly, not just stuff I was doing randomly, before prison over guitars and keyboards, not the beats. And then he would have these card ideas. And so he's like the greatest entrepreneur. He's always thinking of businesses. He's a prophet that's also here in this community. He owns his own RV business. And he would have artists draw pictures and he was like, hey, what do you see there? Just write a poem to it. And so now his card business, I had to look at all these abstract drawings and try to figure out how to write a poem to it, right? And so these are things that I'm doing to train myself. Like people are like, man, you ain't keeping your raps, let me keep them. I'm like, nah. That was the first time I became selfish. Like I said the other day, like when someone wants what you have, that's when you know you have something. And so now my first instinct was to protect it, even though I didn't know what to do with it. And so I didn't know how to rap or anything at that point in time. And so kind of going through this, I had to stay at Harambe. I was learning, I stepped into Ma'at Temple a couple times. Rastafarian was kind of like way more popular to me, way more attractive. Obviously growing up a Christian. And so I'm like, yeah, I already know that story, you know? And during Rastafarian, that's when I started to write what was called spoken word, but I didn't know that. And so these are things coming out of me. I don't really know what I'm saying, but it sounds real good, clever, and witty. And it sounds like I done read the whole dictionary, but I never have. And I don't understand what the heck all these words, these complex syllables, metaphors, double entendres, alliterations, and consonant sounds, right? Like, I didn't know.
That's
right?
God. That's God.
Exactly. But everyone's seeing it, I'm just like, for sure. But I remember one time this man named Bukafa, he was really our teacher in Rasta, right? I did a performance and he was like, so how'd you feel about that? So first time I didn't get affirmed, I was like, I don't know. He was like, yeah, I didn't really feel anything in that. And it let me know, I'm like, that time I wrote because now I was trying to live up to what people were saying I was doing. So I was trying to appease. So I just searched for something, and now I'm trying to show that I'm smart and that I didn't retain some of these things that brothers have told me, but I hadn't studied yet. You know what I mean? And so it's really just like naming these things as if I know these things. But, you know, to a person who knows it, who's living it, it's like you can feel the energy of authenticity.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I picked up on someone being so authentic in their journey. And when it comes to art and expression, to be able to see like when a person is being authentic to now when they're not. And it's such a drop to the point like, man, I can't even feel what you said. Like you just over talking it. You know what I mean? And so that stuck with me. Harambe and all these things got broken up after the riot. And they took everything at Tecumseh. And so my true step deeper into my journey came towards the end of Tecumseh when I was like, either I'm gonna die in prison trying to protect my life, or I'm gonna lose my life trying to protect my life. Either way, I was sounding like a victim. And I was like, man, I wanna write because I want my sons to know more about me. You know, at the end of the day, at least to see like how I rose even when I went into this situation. Cause there was a time in prison I never thought I would make it out. And it scared me. And I was scared when I first came into prison because I didn't know how to make my mind understand how to do that amount of time. Like that's not a normal thing. Someone said, hey, go to timeout for up to 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, then what, right? Then no one's walking you through the steps of while you're in timeout, this is what we're gonna do so you can really know what it is that you did, so then we can help correct these things and you can go back out into the public and be quote unquote, what'd you call it, a successful citizen or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever that type of thing is. Forget that sentence anyway, like productive citizen.
Yeah.
I don't really cuss too much, but fuck that shit. Like productive citizen, that just means, you know how I was a productive citizen when I didn't know who the heck I was until I had a mental health break, right? And lost myself, right? So this productive citizen means like forgetting who you are, forgetting your people, right? Just like making yourself only this battery that's like, that you have to like overwork at work in order to have a purpose, right? And to the point where you don't even have enough time to even spend time with the people who you're making money for or whatever. It's just like, it's like being just an unconscious like cog. And so with that, I had this other quote that I said, like, it took coming to prison to contemplate what had me imprisoned. And that's when I began to reflect on, oh, I was already in prison in here. And then when I reflected on that, I started reflecting on all my conversations, and 90% of them was really trying to be a therapist to people while I'm in prison. And then I started listening to everybody else's conversations, and they was doing the same thing. I'm like, man, prison is a therapist. But you're willing to actually try to help someone find some semblance of peace in their life, so you can feel like you actually have some type of some sense of self-worth and purpose in your life. I feel like you did something, right? Now, some people are going to like, man, I did this, I listened. Well, because it's like quid pro quo, right? If you don't know anything better, it's like extrinsic value, right? I do for you, you do for me, right? But really, when you're trying to help someone, you're healing yourself. And so a prisoner has the opportunity to truly actually see what's going on inside of society, inside of their own family, right? When they're in prison, because now they can hear it all, they can reflect, and then they can give back, right? And so I was like, dang, well, I want to start writing. And that's when Katie said the best time to plant a tree. So then I started writing, and I thought of pros of a con. I'm just, just purging, just writing all these things. And then the tablet came, I'm writing all these things. And one of the things is like, I was like, I'll never call my family and ask them for anything, because I never wanted anyone to say that when you're in prison, I did this for you. That don't mean people didn't do nothing for me in prison. I had a lot of people do a lot, especially the more closer I got to healing, right? I had a support system out of this world that came out the wazoo from all over the world, right? Even people commenting and reaching out to me from all over. I had a girlfriend from Australia for a moment. It was like a whole year and a half relationship with her. We had a cute thing going on. That British accent it was like it was like Australian or whatnot. I was so happy. And her name was Leonie, right? I was like, lioness. Oh, bad. Right. But these things though were like moments that was just like, even like in her name, like reminders of like the soul that was like shocking me to parts of awakening. This lady named Andrea, who I don't talk to enough, she had lupus, and she was healing forms of her lupus in the midst of our conversations, right? But she had reached out to me on my birthday, said she had saw my poetry or whatever, and then she was like, I'm curious, is that who you are? Is that your representative? And I was like, I was like, hey, what does that mean? And she from Arkansas, right? She couldn't hug. She loves hugs. She couldn't hug. When it would rain, she would be crippled, right? And so I was really there. Like, I'm learning about Dr. Sebi and the alkaline diet or whatever, but even just through the love that she had for me and through our friendship or whatnot, or the possibility of us getting together, like she began to like heal herself, right? To a point where she like cried. She got to actually be around her family and get hugs. She flew all the way down here to visit me, to be able to give me a hug or whatever. Now, like she had that gloves on because it's so cold, right? So these were the relationships I was getting from people all over the world that was giving me a sense of self-worth. I was a foster child. I didn't have man, my words matter, right? So I'm just like, that's crazy. And so I'm just getting excited about it, but I'm not really knowing how to channel it, where to express it. And I got the opportunity to, right before I left, actually, one of my friends hung himself. His name was Q, right after getting off of a conversation with his girlfriend, right? And she was just, I'm not gonna, speak ill of whatever was going on with that. I do know what was going on in the background, but he got off the phone and instead of cooking, went straight to his room and hung himself, right? I was probably like the third person to see him, right? Puddle on the room. And that changed. There was a man that was just like, man, this ain't right. They're coming in or whatever. Like, you see this shit, this ain't right. Everything, right? We got to leave him there, because if we go in there now, we in trouble, right? We're under investigation, everything. Like, people so hurt and everything, they hanging themselves now. Like, he's like, man, this ain't right. And I remember what I did. I left right when I saw them coming in, and my mind was like, we're about to be on lockdown. And so I left from that side because the wall was no longer there separating the units because of the riot. I left that side and went straight to my room to get my shower stuff and went straight into the shower. And this man named Heavy is like, man, what's up, Russ? I'm like, yeah, bro, we about to get locked down. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, Q hung himself. He's like, man, stop playing. And I'm just so dry. I'm like, yeah, Q dead. Q ain't. He's like, Russ, stop playing. It's like, yeah, he's like, that's when you see the COs or whatnot. But my only thought was get my shower out the way, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to come out the room and shower again and be stuck up in this room stinking or whatever the crap, right? Because you couldn't even sit there and process that the way that you needed to. You know what I mean? And how that would just like, sit with you. You feel me? Especially when you know a person. You ain't got to be like their best friend or whatever. And so from there, I ended up going to OCC, had an opportunity to visit with my mom because she was at work release at that time. And so I'm learning to rap more. I'm writing. I'm with Quayle. We up at the music room. We have the only guitar loop station. So we're being able to record ourselves, right? Practicing, he's performing in the mirror, right? And I'm just like, man, like how he got so much confidence and stuff. So I'll be like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying. So, but this is all where the practice was coming out to what I'm doing right here. And then I'm seeing my mom, I'm studying psychology, sociology, interpersonal relationships, neuro-linguistic programming. I thought that was too manipulative. I got away from that. I saw all the Robert Greene. I'm like, oh, this is manipulative psychology. Then I had a reflection that all Western psychology is based off of manipulation of phenomena or the mind or brain or behavior, et cetera, et cetera. It's based off of diagnosis more often than it is about personal discovery and healing. And then I ended up getting introduced to Eastern Orthodox psychology and then African psychology. And then I was like, oh man, this is whole over here. There's a purpose over here, but I hadn't reached that yet. I'm like, this is whole over here. And so I became kind of like against like this word that I discovered was iconoclast, against, traditions, institutions, common beliefs, et cetera, right? And so I didn't know how to express that, but I'm learning it. And then I started having this question on my name, like, is this my name or is this my alias? Because it just sounds so cool and I don't even know where the heck it came from. I was in a wood shop when they were like, man, you got to think of a name, because that's when I created the song for Defy, right? And that's where the Voices of Defy came from. And I was like, I don't know. And so it was in front of Herb and Phantom. Phantom was also big on this journey because he was like, bro, you are great. You're going to be so special. Like, bro, you're a rapper. You need to start doing this. I'm like, man, I got visions for and he would just have these everybody had these grandiose visions for me. But I'm like, my mind didn't think like that. I didn't know how to like think about this economically or for talent or gift, because I hadn't ever walked in that light to that or knew that and stuff. And so, all right, for sure. So, anyways, I got this name and then I started walking with it. Then I started reflecting on the name I was given. And so I asked my mom at visit one day, I was like, hey, did you name me Russell as like an act of guilt to like kind of give back the life of the man you thought that you took from me? And it stumped her. And she was like, I don't know. But I knew that there was truth in that. And so I had told her, this is my name. And from that day on, she never called me Way of Life. I mean, Russell again, she called me Way of Life. And that's when I knew that I was helping her from her trauma and also helping me out of my trauma and going into a new page and a different understanding of who I am. And so that's really when like my journey into my real spirituality started. And I ended up being introduced into my aunt and I just like our Kemetic ancestors and stuff. And from there, I just kind of started walking in that lighter way of life and learning how to like cruise through those ups and downs. I began to be a mediator for people, a speaker for people, a performer for the prisons or whatnot, right? Just that constant trust, because I stayed in to heal myself. I didn't check out or check in to heal myself, right? And so I had to go through that gridiron of people saying like, is this for real? And they saw that it was for real. And the community gonna let you know how they feel about you when they listen in the positions that they put you in and when they start speaking about you. And so Way of Life became like this thing, right? And so now I had to learn how to walk with that thing. And I had a bunch of ups and downs from that, right? And it's still like a unfolding story, so to speak, but yeah.
As long as you breathing, it's gonna be an unfolding story. Always,
100%.
always, man. The chapters are always changing. Sometimes the volume changes. You know what I'm saying? Like all of our lives are stories, man. And I want to say, man, it's been a beautiful journey for you through the ups and the downs, through the trials that you had to face, through the trauma that you've had to experience. I tell people this all the time. It's like our trauma really turns into our biggest asset if we're able to process through it, whatever that looks like, whether it's talking to a therapist or it's going internally and intrinsically and really starting to make sense and make meaning of the things that we've experienced and not allow them to just be our identity or the cloud that forever stays there constantly raining nonstop. Because damn, like I've never heard of a forever storm except for on Jupiter on the big red spot. That's the only place. You know what I'm saying? Storms come and they go, they blow away. They come again, the sun comes out. Then if you're in the Midwest, it also snows a day after a 60-degree day. You know what I'm saying? So, bro, it's been a true journey for you, and you being able to actualize your life experiences up to a certain point and really hone in and harness like what life was trying to create for you. And it's brought you to a place to where now you use your voice to help liberate other people while also liberating yourself continuously, because you mentioned it, you're taking inspiration from your life, from your experience, and bringing it to fruition through your creation and your creative process. We got a couple minutes, and we mentioned before, if there was a piece, bro, that you could give to the people that would, I'm gonna just throw a big word out there. I don't even know if it's a big one, the right one, but I feel like if that could amalgamize your experience, or could really encapsulate the essence or the energy that you brought today. Share it with the people, and in the comments, let us know what you took from it.
For sure. I'm gonna do this piece about beyond the numbers, just because I always want to start off with giving credit back to those who are in prison.
2 minutes.
It's gonna get cut off. When you multiply and divide, you could get. My fault. When you multiply and divide just to get by, you can leave pieces of pie in the sky when life hits you dead in the eye, because most things go unseen. So to solve the mystery on this scene, the math must lead to one understanding. Numbers don't mean you know the half. Emergency, I need to cut through this numeric surface, sacrificing model for make with the jaws of way of life. I'll pry myself into each margin, redesigning the inseams, critically operating on perception. I'm a surgical knife cutting to a depth where not even a mastermind can interpret anything beyond one emergence scene. Operation time, 10,000 hours. Not much longer than the year in time spent, but I've gone beyond 10,011 times. So what's the math when you're more than the master? And I don't mean 5,000 when I say you may never know the half, because the equivalent of wrath converted into making things happen is just not that easy to add complex fractures. But when you show your work, deeper realization will lead you to see that your talent is your task and desire, the roadmap to find who you are, why you are, and where you're at. And the scatter plots can confuse those not adept at remembering their tracks, so you may have to follow whatever tracks. But my poetry is potion that leads you to hypnosis. I mean black enlightenment. To understand the light, you can't be scared of the dark, child. So seek ye first the kingdom, and you shall find that my content is my convent, holy grail. Communing with my presence ushers many to answers too hard to tell. Therefore, if you co-sign my tangent lines, I'll deduce for you the real math, and perhaps we can educe what gets left over after math, and then I can ask you something after that. Here's your problem. Number 78756 echoed 4,395 horizons, 144 new moons, 113,940,260 breaths, 105,480 hours, all adds up to 12 years, 15 days in prison. They say 10,000 was all the master ever needed to mold into whatever is needed. But I hail from those that go beyond that meaning for more than just their own reasons, because this kind of time spent can't be measured from season to season. It's a different kind of luxury tax when your work ethic seasons you to be fit enough to become freedom. So let me ask you something. What you know about spending over 10,000 hours in the hole, over 10,000 hours thinking, damn, it's so cold, over 10,000 hours screaming, fuck, I want to go home, over 10,000 hours feeling by any means necessary is a goal, then calling on 10,000 names to resurrect and be made whole. Should I die to live for this kind of problem solving? Number 78756 was just a vision. Some things got to be taken away in order for you to get it. See, math and mastery get tricky when problem solving behind defenses. So you can never know the half if 10,000 is your metric system. Therefore, deducing 5,000 as an understanding line between you and I without pi is just bad math, yet still that multiplies prisons. Ashe.
I appreciate y'all for tuning into another episode of the Clean Your Room show, because when you clean your room, you change your life. You create your resilience, and I promise you, you could change your reality. We out.
That's it. Pause, man. I gotta worry. That's my second time, really. The first time.
You made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have a story though, that you're wanting to get out there and you feel like your life and your testimony could have an impact and really change the lives of hundreds, thousands, millions of people just by them hearing it, I want to give the opportunity to you to be able to be on the show. Down in the description, I'm going to leave a link for a questionnaire for you to fill out in order to get on here and to be able to share your story. All you got to do, click it, fill it out. If you just put a couple of words on there, it's going to be hard for me to really see if that story is worth putting on here. So really go into detail when you answer these questions. But this is the opportunity for you to be able to come on the show and showcase your testimony, because I believe testimonies are powerful. I had somebody in here just the other day and they were like, I realized once I was able to own my story, it no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the people who were meant to hear it so that they can be helped from it. And so if that's you and your testimony and your story is meant to help somebody, fill out the link down in the description and let's get you on the show. Thanks for tuning in.